Have you ever walked into a room and felt a subtle, unspoken shift in the air? A change in energy so quiet you could almost miss it, yet so palpable it leaves a question mark hanging in your mind. We all navigate our lives guided by the reflections we see in the eyes of others. But what happens when that reflection becomes cloudy? When the people closest to us, our family, our friends, the very individuals we cherish, start holding up an invisible mirror that shows a version of ourselves we no longer recognize? As we journey through life, accumulating wisdom and experience, it's natural to become comfortable in our own skin, to settle into routines and habits that feel like a second nature. Yet, insidiously, some of these very habits, born not of malice but of circumstance, can begin to create a silent chasm between us and the world around us. This isn't a conversation about judgment or criticism, far from it. This is an act of profound self-awareness and empowerment. It's about bravely looking into that invisible mirror, not to find flaws, but to understand the subtle, unconscious signals we might be sending. Today, we will explore 5 deeply personal and often unnoticed patterns, 5 ugly truths or shadow habits that can emerge as we age. These are the things that everyone around you notices, but almost nobody has the heart to mention for fear of causing hurt or embarrassment. Our purpose is not to make you feel self-conscious, but to illuminate these shadows with compassion, offering you the tools to step back into the light with renewed confidence, strengthen your most precious relationships, and ensure that the person you present to the world is an authentic, vibrant reflection of the remarkable individual you are inside. So, stay with us on this journey of discovery, because the insights we are about to share have the power to transform not just how others see you, but how you see yourself, forever. The first shadow habit, the slow fade of personal grooming. One of the most immediate, yet delicately unmentioned signals that people perceive is a subtle decline in personal grooming. This is not about vanity or chasing the ghost of youth. It is about the silent language of self-respect. It often begins in ways so small they are almost imperceptible, even to ourselves. A missed day of shaving becomes 2. Fingernails are forgotten for a week. Hair, once meticulously styled, is now only hastily combed, or perhaps left to find its own unruly path between salon visits. A small food stain on a collar from lunch might go unnoticed and remain for the rest of the day. These are not grand failures, but tiny slips in a lifelong routine. Why does this happen? The reasons are as complex and varied as we are. For some, the physical act of grooming becomes a genuine challenge. Arthritis can turn the simple act of buttoning a shirt into a painful ordeal. Declining eyesight can make it difficult to spot a small stain or trim nails with precision. Our sense of smell can diminish with age, making us less aware of our own body odor or the need for a fresh application of deodorant. For others, the shift is more psychological. The loss of a spouse, retirement from a long-held career, or a period of illness can lead to a sense of, "Who am I doing this for anymore?" The external motivation fades, and the internal ritual, once a source of pride, can start to feel like a meaningless chore. It is a slow erosion of a daily practice that once anchored our sense of readiness for the world. But here is the crucial part. While we may be unaware of these creeping changes, the outside world is not. People are hardwired to notice details. A friend who comes for coffee will see the unkempt nails. A grandchild offering a hug might subtly register an unfamiliar, stale scent. A neighbor you meet on your daily walk takes in the slightly disheveled appearance. They will almost certainly remain polite, their smiles warm and their words kind. But behind that kindness, a quiet narrative begins to form in their minds. They may wonder, is everything okay? Are they feeling depressed? Are they struggling to manage on their own? These assumptions, though born of concern, begin to color their perception of us. They start to see fragility or neglect instead of the vibrant, capable person who still resides within. This creates a painful disconnect. We feel like ourselves on the inside, but the exterior we present tells a different, more somber story. Do you have any experiences with how small daily rituals, like grooming, can profoundly affect your mood or how others interact with you? We believe that sharing these stories can help us all feel less alone in these challenges, so please share your thoughts in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. Consider the story of Frank, a man in his early 70s who had always been known for his sharp, dapper appearance. A retired engineer, Frank's life was built on precision, a trait reflected in his perfectly knotted ties and polished shoes. However, after a difficult bout with pneumonia that left him weak and fatigued for months, his meticulous routine began to crumble. He stopped polishing his shoes. He'd often forget to shave. His neighbors, who had always admired his put-together look, noticed immediately. They still greeted him warmly, but there was a new, almost pitying tone to their inquiries about his health. Frank didn't understand the shift until his daughter, visiting from out of town, sat him down gently. "Dad," she said, "I know you've been through a lot, but when you used to get dressed up, even just to go to the store, you had a spark. I miss that spark." Her words were a loving wake-up call. It wasn't about the shoes or the shave, it was about the spark. The next morning, Frank took a little extra time. He carefully shaved, put on a clean iron shirt, and even took a moment to buff his favorite pair of loafers. When he walked to the corner store, he felt a change. He stood a little taller. The cashier, who had grown accustomed to his more disheveled look, commented, "Looking sharp today, Frank." That small comment was everything. It wasn't about impressing others, it was about reclaiming a piece of himself he thought he had lost. The ritual of grooming was a signal, first to himself and then to the world, that he still took pride in who he was. The solution isn't about an expensive makeover. It's about establishing a simple, non-negotiable daily ritual of self-care. It might be a 5-minute routine, brushing your teeth, combing your hair, and choosing a clean outfit. It could involve setting a weekly reminder to trim your nails, or asking a trusted family member for an honest, gentle check-in. "Is there anything I'm missing?" is a question that shows strength, not weakness. Investing in tools that make grooming easier, like an electric razor or a long-handled brush, can also make a world of difference. These small acts are declarations. They say, "I am here, I am present, and I am worth the effort." That was the first shadow habit, a crucial foundation for how we present ourselves. If you find this information about the importance of personal grooming to be a valuable reminder, please comment with the number 1 below to let us know you're finding this helpful. The second shadow habit, the echo chamber of constant complaining. Another powerful habit that can quietly alienate us from those we love is allowing a pattern of complaining to dominate our conversations. It often begins as a slow leak, a tiny drip of negativity into the stream of our daily interactions. It might be a frustrated sigh about the traffic, a grumble about the rising price of groceries, or a detailed account of the new ache in your knee. Each complaint, on its own, seems perfectly reasonable and justified. We are, after all, simply sharing the realities of our day. But over time, these individual drips can merge, creating a persistent current of negativity that others can feel, even if they never name it.
Let's approach this with deep empathy. As we age, life presents us with very real and legitimate challenges. Chronic pain is not an invention. The loss of friends and loved ones leaves genuine voids. A world that seems to be changing at a dizzying pace can be truly disorienting. Complaining can feel like a necessary release valve, a way to voice these frustrations and seek a moment of connection through shared struggle. It can be a bid for validation, a way of saying, "Do you see how hard this is?" And sometimes it is. But a dangerous line is crossed when sharing a struggle morphs into a default mode of communication. When every conversation is anchored by what's wrong, it creates what can be described as an echo chamber of negativity. The effect this has on others is profound, though often silent. People are naturally drawn to warmth, light, and positivity. It's not that they expect you to be happy all the time or to ignore life's difficulties. But when they come to associate your presence with a constant litany of grievances, it becomes emotionally draining. They might start to brace themselves before they call you. Visits might become shorter. They will nod, listen politely, and offer sympathetic words, but on the inside, they are feeling their own energy reserves deplete. They start to see you through a filter of negativity, and the wise, funny, and loving person they know and care for becomes obscured by the cloud of complaints. They pull away not because they've stopped loving you, but as an act of emotional self-preservation. This is the great tragedy of chronic complaining. It often leads to the very loneliness and isolation that fuels the negativity in the first place. If these insights about balancing life's struggles with a positive outlook are resonating with you, please consider supporting our community by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss content designed to uplift and empower you. Think of Harold, an 80-year-old man with a sharp mind and a heart of gold. After his beloved wife of 50 years passed away, a gloom settled over his world, and he began to see everything through that gray lens. His friends from his weekly card game still loved him dearly, but their visits grew less frequent. Harold couldn't understand why. To him, he was just being honest about his loneliness, his frustration with the leaky faucet, and his disappointment with the bland meal from the meal service. He didn't realize that every conversation had become a recital of his sorrows. The turning point came during a visit from his 16-year-old granddaughter, Emily. As Harold lamented the poor service of the bank, Emily listened patiently. When he was done, she didn't offer sympathy. Instead, she asked, "Grandpa, tell me again about the time you and Grandma got lost in Italy and ended up at that amazing little restaurant." As Harold began to recount the story, his entire demeanor shifted. His eyes lit up, a smile played on his lips, and his voice regained its old, vibrant tone. When he finished, Emily said gently, "I love hearing those stories. When you talk about those things, it's like the sun comes out in the room." Harold was stunned. He'd been so focused on the clouds that he forgot he still had the sun inside him. He made a conscious effort to change his conversational habits. It wasn't about pretending to be happy, it was about achieving balance. He adopted what he called the gratitude sandwich. He would allow himself to share a frustration, but he would make sure to sandwich it between sharing a good memory and expressing gratitude for something small, like the warmth of the sun or a kind word from a neighbor. The change was almost immediate. His friends started staying for the whole card game again. His conversations with Emily were filled with laughter. He learned that his words had the power to shape his reality, not just for others, but for himself. By choosing what to shine a light on, he invited more light into his life. The next time you feel the urge to voice a complaint, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself, is this the story I want to tell right now? Is there another, more hopeful or grateful story I could share instead? This simple, conscious choice can be the difference between pushing people away and drawing them closer.
We've just explored our second shadow habit. If you recognize the power of shifting from complaining to gratitude and want to commit to finding more balance in your own conversations, comment with the number 2 below. Your commitment inspires us all. The third shadow habit, interrupting and dominating conversations. One of the most subtle yet profoundly impactful habits that can develop with age is the tendency to interrupt others or to consistently steer every conversation back to our own experiences. This behavior is rarely born from arrogance or a desire to be rude. In fact, it often stems from a deeply human and well-intentioned place, a fervent desire to connect, to share hard-won wisdom, or to show empathy by relating a similar story from our own past. We hear a young colleague describe a work challenge, and, eager to help, we jump in with a tale of how we solved a similar problem back in 1985. We listen to a grandchild talk about their anxieties, and, wanting to comfort them, we cut them off to share our own history of overcoming fears. The intention is noble, but the impact can be devastating to genuine connection. While we are busy formulating our contribution, the person speaking experiences a shutdown. They feel that their story, their unique experience, has been deemed less important than our own. A space that should have been theirs to fill has been claimed by us. The message we unintentionally send is, "My experience is the more relevant one here. Let me take over." Over time, people around us, especially those from younger generations, learn to adapt. They might stop sharing their problems altogether. They may offer only superficial updates about their lives, knowing a deeper dive will likely be cut short. They learn to smile, nod, and become excellent listeners, all while quietly disengaging. They are not angry with us, they are simply creating a protective space for their own thoughts and feelings, a space that is no longer available in the conversation with us. At the heart of this issue lies a fundamental human need, the need to be seen and heard. Every person, regardless of their age or station in life, yearns for the feeling that their voice matters, that their perspective is valued. A conversation should be like a dance, a graceful give and take, where each partner has a chance to lead and to follow. When one person consistently leads, it ceases to be a dance and becomes a monologue. In our eagerness to share our vast library of life experiences, we risk missing out on the precious opportunity to learn something new, to see the world through a fresh pair of eyes, and to truly understand the inner lives of the people we care about most. We miss the chance to keep growing. This is a delicate topic, and we'd be grateful to hear your perspective. Have you ever found yourself eager to share wisdom, only to realize you might be overshadowing someone else? Or have you been on the receiving end? Sharing your experience in the comments can create a space for compassionate understanding. Let's consider the story of Walter, an 83-year-old retired history professor. Walter was a brilliant man, a natural storyteller with a treasure trove of fascinating anecdotes from his travels and academic life. His family revered his intellect. However, as the years went on, his desire to impart knowledge began to overshadow his ability to receive it. Visits from his children started to feel less like a family gathering and more like a lecture. They would begin to tell a story about a challenge at work, and Walter would immediately launch into a long, detailed account of post-war economic policy that was, at best, tangentially related. His phone calls with them became shorter and more perfunctory. "Everything's fine, Dad. Just checking in." Painful realization dawned on Walter one afternoon when his son, Mark, called. Mark had just been passed over for a promotion he desperately wanted. He started to explain his disappointment, his voice thick with emotion. Before he could get 2 sentences out, Walter interrupted, "Well, that reminds me of the political climate in the faculty senate back in '92. You see, the dean had this agenda." Mark went silent. After a long pause, he simply said, "You know what, Dad? Never mind. I have to go." The line went dead, but the silence that remained was deafening. In that moment, Walter understood. His son hadn't needed a history lesson. He had needed a father. He had needed someone to listen. From that day forward, Walter embarked on a new kind of intellectual pursuit, the art of listening. He created a mental rule for himself: ask 3 questions before sharing one story. When his daughter called to talk about her child's struggles in school, he didn't offer an immediate solution. Instead, he asked, "That sounds so tough. What is the hardest part for her? How are you feeling about it all? What kind of support do you think you need?" The effect was transformative. His children began calling him not just out of duty, but for his counsel, because they knew he would finally hear them first. His wisdom became even more valuable because it was now offered in response to a genuine need, not imposed upon the conversation. By creating space for others' voices, he found that his own voice was, in the end, heard more clearly and lovingly than ever before. We've now covered the 3rd shadow habit. If you recognize the value of becoming a more active and generous listener in your relationships, please type the number 3 in the comments below to share your commitment to this powerful practice. The 4th shadow habit: the comfort of worn-out clothes. There is a distinct difference between personal grooming and the clothes we choose to wear, and it's another area where our private comfort can send an unintended public message. This isn't about chasing fleeting fashion trends or spending a fortune on a new wardrobe. It's about the subtle story that our clothing tells about our state of mind long before we say a single word. As years pass, it's incredibly easy for our closets to become a museum of comfortable old favorites. That faded sweater with the small hole in the elbow, the pair of pants with the slightly frayed hem, the scuffed but familiar shoes, these items become like old friends. They don't demand much from us, and in return, they offer a sense of ease and familiarity. The issue arises when this collection of well-worn, mismatched, or neglected items becomes our daily uniform. We might stop noticing the faded colors, the stretched-out collars, or the subtle stains. To us, it's just what we wear. However, to the outside world, these details are fresh and immediately noticeable. When people see us in clothes that are visibly tired, they unconsciously begin to write a story. They might wonder if we are facing financial difficulties. They might assume we are feeling low or have lost our sense of self-pride. They see the worn fabric and mismatched patterns and may inadvertently superimpose a narrative of decline onto us, regardless of how energetic and engaged we might feel on the inside. This phenomenon is tied to a psychological concept sometimes called enclothed cognition, the idea that the clothes we wear have a direct impact on our own mental state. When you put on an outfit that is clean, fits well, and makes you feel put together, it changes how you carry yourself. You might stand a little straighter, make more direct eye contact, and engage with the world with a bit more confidence. Conversely, when we dress in clothes that are worn out or ill-fitting, it can subtly reinforce a feeling of being past our prime. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We dress in a way that signals we've stopped caring, and that feeling can begin to seep into our own psyche, diminishing our energy and our desire to engage with the world. If you're finding this analysis valuable and want to continue receiving content that helps you live with more confidence and joy, please take a moment to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Your support allows us to keep creating content just like this for our wonderful community. Let's revisit the story of Leonard, a 75-year-old widower. When his wife was alive, she had a gentle way of guiding his wardrobe, laying out a crisp shirt or reminding him to wear the good jacket for an outing. After she passed, Leonard's world shrank, and so did his attention to his appearance. He began to live in a rotation of old, comfortable flannel shirts and slacks with missing buttons. He loved his daughter, Sarah, dearly, but he noticed she seemed hesitant to invite him to her son's school events or out to lunch at a nice restaurant.
One day, Sarah came over with a shopping bag. Inside was a simple, new navy blue polo shirt and a pair of khaki trousers. "Dad," she began, her tone incredibly gentle, "I remember how handsome you always looked when you and Mom would go out. You seemed so happy and full of life. I miss seeing you like that." Leonard was initially defensive, but as he looked down at his faded, stained shirt, he saw what she meant. He tried on the new clothes. The fit was perfect. He looked in the mirror and saw not a different man, but a version of himself he hadn't seen in years. He didn't go on a shopping spree. Instead, inspired by that one new outfit, he went through his closet. He had his daughter help him mend a few items, polish his shoes, and organize his shirts and pants into outfits that matched. The next time Sarah invited him to her son's baseball game, he wore his new polo. He felt a surge of confidence he hadn't experienced in a long time. People at the game, other parents and grandparents, struck up conversations with him. He realized his old clothes had been a kind of armor, hiding him away from the world. His new, tidy appearance was an invitation. It signaled that he was still engaged, still proud, and still ready to be a part of life. It's not about the price tag on the clothes. It's about the pride you take in wearing them. Take a moment to look at your go-to outfit. Ask yourself a simple, honest question. Does this outfit reflect the dignity and vitality I feel on the inside? That one question can be the catalyst for a powerful shift in how you feel about yourself and how warmly the world responds to you. This brings us to the end of our fourth point. If you believe that dressing with dignity is a form of self-care and you're inspired to bring a little more intention to your own wardrobe, please comment with the number 4 below. The fifth shadow habit, the public display of impatience. The final shadow habit we will explore is one that can have a surprisingly wide ripple effect, the tendency to show impatience in public. This can manifest in a myriad of small, seemingly insignificant ways. It's the audible heavy sigh while waiting in line at the grocery store. It's the sharp, clipped tone used with a young cashier who is moving too slowly. It's the tapping of fingers on the counter at the pharmacy, or the muttered complaint about the doctor running 10 minutes behind schedule. In our minds, our frustration is completely justified. The world is inefficient, people are slow, and our time is valuable. The origins of this growing impatience can be multifaceted.
For some, it's a physical reality. Standing for long periods can be painful, making any delay feel like an eternity. For others, there's a psychological component. As we age, there can be a growing, gnawing sense that time is a finite and precious resource, and we become acutely intolerant of having it wasted. There can also be a feeling of being out of sync with a world that operates on a different rhythm, a frustration that things aren't as straightforward or as courteous as they used to be. Whatever the cause, these public displays of impatience broadcast a very specific kind of energy into the surrounding environment. Here is the difficult truth. While our frustration might be directed at a situation, it is felt by the people around us. The young cashier, who may be new at their job and trying their best, feels your sharp tone as a personal criticism, making them more flustered and prone to mistakes. The other customers in line feel a wave of tension and discomfort. Most poignantly, the family member or friend who is with you feels it most acutely. They become embarrassed, anxious, and stressed. They may start to avoid running errands with you, not because they don't enjoy your company, but because they dread the potential for a tense or awkward public scene. Your impatience, intended to speed things up, paradoxically creates an emotional barrier that slows down and damages your connection with them. How we conduct ourselves in these small moments of friction defines our character in the eyes of others far more than we realize. It is in these moments that we have the chance to model either grace or grumpiness.
Consider Raymond, an 80-year-old man known for his quick wit and good humor. Following some health setbacks, however, he found his patience wearing dangerously thin. Outings with his daughter, Chloe, became stressful affairs. At the restaurant, he would grumble loudly about the wait for a table. At the doctor's office, he would complain to Chloe about the inefficiency of the staff. Chloe loved her father deeply, but she began making excuses to avoid taking him out. The joy of their time together was being suffocated by the constant tension. The moment of clarity for Raymond came not from a confrontation, but from a quiet observation. They were at the post office, and the line was long. Raymond started his usual muttering. Chloe didn't say a word, but Raymond glanced over and saw her face. She wasn't looking at him. She was staring at the floor. Her shoulders slumped, a look of weary resignation in her eyes. It was as if she was carrying the weight of his negativity. In that instant, he saw his impatience not as a justifiable reaction, but as a burden he was placing on his daughter. It was a profound turning point. Raymond made a new commitment to himself. The next time he felt that familiar surge of frustration, he would pause, take a single deep breath, and consciously choose a different reaction. The next time they were in a slow line, instead of complaining, he turned to Chloe and asked her about her day. He complimented the bank teller on her friendly service. He smiled at the waiter. He chose grace. The atmosphere between them transformed. Their outings became light and joyful again. Raymond learned that patience is not merely a passive virtue of waiting, it is an active gift of peace that we can offer to everyone around us, and most especially to those we love. The next time you're in a frustrating situation, remember Raymond. You have the power to choose calm over chaos, kindness over criticism. That choice is a reflection of true wisdom. Have you found your own strategies for staying patient in a hectic world? Share your tips in the comments. You might help someone else find a little more peace. This was our fifth and final shadow habit. If you are committed to practicing patience and spreading grace in your daily interactions, please show your support and solidarity by commenting with the number 5 below. Final thoughts. Crafting a legacy of grace. As we bring our conversation to a close, let's take a quiet moment to reflect on the 5 paths we've explored today. The silent language of personal grooming, the echo chamber of complaining, the unheard symphony in our conversations, the fabric of our dignity, and the powerful ripple effect of patience. Which of these resonated most deeply with you? Was there a particular story that felt familiar or a piece of advice that sparked a desire for a small, gentle change in your own life? Please remember, the purpose of this exploration was never to induce guilt or shame. We are all human. Every single one of us, at every stage of life, develops blind spots and falls into unconscious patterns. The true mark of wisdom is not perfection, but the courage to engage in self-awareness. The great news is that shifting these habits does not require a monumental effort. It begins with a single, conscious choice. It's the decision to take 5 extra minutes for yourself in the morning. It's the choice to balance a complaint with a word of gratitude. It's the simple act of asking one more question before you speak. It's choosing the clean shirt over the faded one. It's taking one deep breath before you sigh. These small, incremental adjustments are not about pleasing others, they are about honoring yourself. They are acts of self-love that send a powerful message first to your own spirit and then to the world that you are a person of value, dignity, and ongoing growth. When you make these choices, you don't just feel better in your own skin, you become a more magnetic, positive, and welcome presence in the lives of others, strengthening the bonds that matter most. After all this analysis, what is the most important lesson you have learned for yourself today? What is the one small, actionable step you can commit to taking this week to show up in the world as the most authentic and vibrant version of yourself? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your insights and commitments create a powerful community of support and encouragement, and reading them gives us tremendous motivation. The journey of self-care and self-awareness is a marathon, not a sprint. Start with small, kind steps today. If you found this video helpful and believe it can benefit others, please show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to our channel, and sharing it with someone you care about. Your support is what enables us to continue creating meaningful content designed to inform and inspire. Thank you for joining us on this important journey. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.